What happens when you are only one prompt away from creating almost anything you want online? What becomes real? Like right now, you have the ability with about one prompt or maybe a series of a few prompts to create any kind of website, a sales funnel, mobile apps, applications that you can use online that you might be paying hundreds of dollars for. Now you can create for yourself in minutes. And you can even turn this into a business in an afternoon. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. It's a wild reality that us as entrepreneurs have the ability to take advantage of, but we got to focus on the principles. Like, what are the things that you should do first? And what are the things you should never automate? And a whole bunch of things in the middle there. So, Bill McIntosh is here. He is in the trenches, literally building this technology. So, he's going to break down what this concept of vibe coding is, or even vibe marketing, like this whole thing that now is a reality. We're going to dive into it in this episode. Enjoy. Using only 20% of your business data is kind of like texting with someone who only texts in emojis. First of all, it's super annoying and you're not getting the full picture. You're missing a ton of context. That's kind of how businesses are operating right now, where they're using only 20% of their data, unless you have HubSpot. So with HubSpot, this is where your emails, your call logs, your chat messages, all that can be turned into actionable insights that actually grow your business all within that platform, because all that data is really going to make all the difference. It's a total game changer. So learn more over at hubspot.com. Bill, we are finally doing this on the podcast. It's been, I don't know, when did we meet? It had to have been almost a decade ago, I would say, when we started working.
And it's actually more than a decade ago. I think it's might be close to like 15 years ago.
I believe it.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So I haven't talked about it a lot, at least not recently on the show, but I cut my teeth doing a lot of video sales letters for different people in marketing, online marketing, some local businesses as well. And Bill, yeah, you were one of the first clients I had. And you were doing a product launch, I think is what it was, right? Contest burner.
Yeah. Contest burner. That goes back way back. But yeah, you helped me a lot in that launch. So that was awesome. Yeah.
Those were wild times. I mean, yeah, I learned a lot. I know it was just like the crazy launch era, right? Like there was
I remember like, it's like 2 a.m. I'm on the phone with you. Like we're launching at 8 a.m. We got to get this done. And you're like grinding all the way through. And then we get the video and boom, it's live just in time. And yeah.
And it's like, yeah, well, thanks for trusting me and hanging out. And yeah, I mean, you've done some epic things throughout the years. And what's kind of cool is like, yeah, you said you've been kind of quiet lately, right? And so, but you're building some really interesting stuff now with AI and some really timely things around vibe coding, which is a topic that we're starting to hear more about. So definitely want to debunk what that is in your perspective and what's possible for people.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Vibe coding is like a dual-edged sword. There's some awesome things about that really empower entrepreneurs. And then there's some things that are, that I think can steer people in the wrong way. But
interesting. Yeah. So we'll definitely break that all down. But really what I want to start with is your journey, not all the way through, but really, I mean, you started in 98, right? Online, basically building businesses that way, doing marketing.
Yeah, exactly. It's the very end of 97 going into 98 is when I first jumped in online. I remember, it's going to make me sound so old, but I remember America Online when they first opened the gates from their walled garden to the proper web. And that was when like the light bulb went on of, oh man, this is such an opportunity. And I jumped in.
How did you start? Like, what was that jump in moment? Like, was there a product or something that stood out?
Yeah, well, for me at the time, I had a traditional business. We had a traditional business publishing magazines and newspapers. And if you remember, like all the throwaway job magazines that would be in like the liquor stores. And we spent a fortune on printing and distribution of that magazine every single week. And so in a funny way, I got into the internet to save money, right? So I kind of realized we could reach a much bigger and more qualified audience for a lot less money. So we built a site. The first site, I think the site cost me like $70,000 to build my first website.
Wow.
A bit later, after getting that was kind of my start, cutting my teeth on it, I started to realize in terms of reaching such a huge audience, even in the early days back then. Yeah, it's amazing how easy it is to get in front of a lot of people.
It's interesting. Yeah, you got online to save money, and still to this day, I feel like, I mean, it's very scalable. Like especially with AI now, it's almost like another wave of that happening, right? So, yeah,
All this technology, they've been like, it's like a great equalizer. Even going all the way back to like 98, it became so easy to start a business, as opposed to, if you think about what goes into building a traditional, like offline bricks and mortar,
yep,
nothing but real world business. There is so much cost and expertise and time that goes into doing that. And so, even like if you fast forward a bit to like things like WordPress that started to make it so easy for anyone to just jump online and start a business. And now with AI, it's ridiculous how easy it is. So it's such an amazing opportunity for entrepreneurs.
it is. Well, what are some principles that you find yourself still going to, from like starting back in 98, 97, 98, that you're still carrying to today? Because, with AI, I think a lot of us get, at least if you're newer, you kind of have it's a shiny object kind of moment in a way, because there's so much that you can do and what's possible. But what do you feel like you live by principle wise as a business owner, with all these changes?
Well, I think you can never lose sight of what grounds the money making, right? So the reason you get paid money at the end of the day is by serving people. So exciting technology and AI and bots and all the fun, it's fun to create that stuff, but you can never lose sight of the fact that the business is purely there to help others. And the better you are at doing that, the more money you make.
Mm,
And then kind of stemming from that is to not lose sight that they're humans, and you have to think of human behavior um, in all aspects of your business. And I think, yeah, people get all lost in the exciting, shiny new stuff, and they forget about that.
yeah, no, it's true, because I don't know. What's your perspective on this? I feel like humans, even more so, because I do a lot of AI stuff with the cloning and the Delphi stuff, and I feel like more and more, humans are just going to get more important, through this whole thing of AI. I think it's easy to lose sight of, I can build this website, do all these cool things, but at the end of the day, you still got to live by the rules of, hey, humans going to use this. This is just a tool that we have, right? And it's made to enhance all of our lives in some way.
Yeah, and I think too, just AI in general, there's so much confusion on the general public doesn't even really understand what it is.
True.
But yeah, I think it is purely a creativity unlocker, I guess you'd say. People are afraid of it, but truly, yes, we're going to go through disruption. There's going to be a shift in the economy. There are going to be changes to jobs and things like that. But I do not believe that we're going to be in a situation where, like half the planet's going to be unemployed.
Right.
Our jobs will shift. And in fact, AI are going to, I believe, make our jobs more enjoyable. I think that we'll be able to focus on the creative aspects, and then the AI unleashes a lot of the busy work that we would typically have to do. So it's more about empowering creation, not hurting it.
How do you, yeah, because I absolutely agree, because there's no doubt going to be a shift. I'm curious of like the timeline you have in mind. But because everybody has their own kind of timelines for all this stuff and like how it's going to shift. But like, if you were to, I guess, talk with entrepreneurs listening and watching, like, how would you describe from your perspective, like the shift that's coming, maybe talk about the timeline and, maybe the disruptions and some opportunities?
Well, I mean, I think it depends industry to industry. I think it depends a lot. We can zero in on my big thing these days is the realm of AI assisted coding, and have an AI that creates websites and all the various kinds of online assets. Software apps, web apps, websites, funnels, and at this point, AI has gotten really good at making those things. That's an example of an industry that will be disrupted pretty quickly. I mean, we're already seeing, I was reading an article talking about how in the big giants like Facebook and inside, well, we'll call them Meta, I guess, inside Meta and Google and the big places like that, 30 to 50% of their current like new code written is written by AI.
That's crazy. And it's early. Like you said, like this whole vibe coding and this concept is pretty dang new. I mean, I don't know what the timeline is, but vibe coding now is becoming more of a top of mind thing for people who at least are in AI.
I think the next 12 months for vibe coding is going to see massive adoption. So it's a brand new industry, by the way. So maybe we should just dive in. Let's define
I want
it a
to.
little bit.
Yeah, this
Some
is the
people
pivot
will
now.
understand, what vibe coding is. Should we
Yeah.
dive into that?
Let's do it. Yeah, explain it from your perspective what it is. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that as a label, vibe coding, because it implies that you're somewhat technical and you're creating code and you're sort of vibing with the AI and kind of this free spirited, free flowing, like, oh, let's make this and let's make that. I don't have a better name for it yet, but there are an explosion of tools. It's like an entire industry started it's just barely a year old. It's I think like it had its year birthday just within a couple of days ago.
Gotcha.
And already there's like 3 multi-billion-dollar companies. And
crazy.
And at the end of the day, it's AI that helps you write code. And there are all kinds of different apps and tools and things that you can do to have AI write code, build websites, build web apps and stores and stuff like that.
So it's using some of the big LLMs, and I think it's Claude Code, Anthropic, I believe, is what the number one LLM that's kind of powering all this stuff, right?
Pretty much, but you would be surprised the pace of innovation. There are a lot of models that are competing, and in some areas even better than, say, Claude has Sonnet, for example, that a lot of people use for coding. Even some of the Chinese models are now like writing really good code.
That's the thing. Yeah. All this stuff is behind the scenes updating, right? And then you have this interface. And I guess, yeah, break down how it kind of works. Because some people have probably seen some of these other tools out there. And maybe
Sure.
you want to name some of them too, because I'm kind of curious, like the valuations you already put at these guys, like within a year.
Yeah, I mean, there's this crazy story about a company called Base 44. They're doing something very similar to what I'm doing and what some of the other vibe coding tools that are out there. And 6 months, they were 6 months old, had like 3 people on staff, and they sold for $100 million. Wix bought them for
Wix.
Yeah, $80 million in cash, 20 in some kind of earn out that isn't disclosed, but yeah, it's crazy.
That is nuts. So that's great. And they're not the only one. And, you see these different, I mean, I've seen a whole bunch of them pop up, and I'm sure they have different use cases. They're focused on specific things. So, I mean, the fact that you're in the game now, with your own tool, and definitely tell us what it is, break it down, and I guess why it's unique or like the positioning you're doing with it.
There's a bunch of these tools, and you'll see a lot of them will talk about that they're the where anyone can build a web app, and you just sit down and talk to the AI and it'll build you a web app or a website or anything that you want to deploy on the web. And there's been a huge rush of early adopters, and those are like the tech savvy people that either know a bit of programming or are technical enough to be able to work with the AI, because usually the AI it often up until recently would run into problems, and it would have errors in the code, and there'd be problems deploying your code. And there's even some classic stories of, non-secure code that is caused all kinds of problems. But all of the early adopters, and that's already, we have one company, I think worth $2.8 billion. Lovable just crossed, I think $1.8 billion in value. So huge companies, and it's only the early adopters. Because the general public, I think, is finding they use these tools and they're not as easy to use as necessarily advertised. That's kind of what I think an average everyday entrepreneur runs into with these things.
Sense. Yeah.
And that's kind of the unique problem I'm trying to solve. There's that phenomenon of a brand new company or a brand new industry, and there's that thing of the as it increases, then you have to cross the chasm. You familiar with that?
I am. Yeah. But break it down. I think it's super timely.
Yeah. So in a lot of these industries, you get all the early adopters who jump in, and they're willing to like jump through hoops and go through difficult experiences, and they'll persist, and, and that drives early growth. But then you hit a point where that market starts to become saturated, and the product really has to evolve to serve the general public. And that's where we are right now. And that's the problem I'm trying to solve. I want to come in and make AI assisted coding tools to truly live up to their potential, where someone with zero tech skills can chat with an AI and they don't have to worry about registering the domain name, setting up their hosting, databases, back-end code. There's all this stuff that many of the other tools you have to be at least familiar with in order to, get a final product. So what we're doing, a company called Buildy, so it's Buildy.ai, and we're solving that so that anyone can have a chat with a bot and actually have a completely deployable, ready to go website, sales funnel, shopping cart, app. If you want to build a complete software as a service business, like it'll do any of those things.
So because I definitely have some experience with building some apps using tools like bolt.new and flip it on Replit, Lovable slightly as well, and a few others, I think VO or V0, however you say it. There's there's a lot out there, but you're absolutely right. You get to a point, like it starts off very simple, it's all prompt based, right? And definitely if you have the coding skills, there's sometimes a coding version or a different view that you can go with. But after I would say a couple prompts, you quickly realize you're like, oh my gosh, what am I looking at? Or how do I even preview this thing or test this? And yeah, like you said, there's databases to connect with and all that stuff.
Well, many of those companies are doing amazing things. And I would say, or especially like Replit has recently had some breakthroughs in some of the things that they've released. If you're a bit technical, right? So, but for someone, like you said, if you don't have at least some basic understanding of all these different moving parts, and then you have to help the AI debug the app often, that will be another thing where bugs will pop up, and you got to help the app figure out how to debug those things.
That's probably the biggest one, right? I've heard that from other friends. They're like, oh my gosh, what do I do now?
And it takes a lot of persistence. And either you just have to keep going, even though you have no idea what's happening and you're just sort of hoping you get through, or you eventually get frustrated and quit. And I'm not knocking any of the other companies, but if you go look at some of the reviews, that's what you find out is that people that know some technology having success and being very excited about the tools. But for non-technical entrepreneurs, it's a mess. They're just loaded with horror stories of people trying to build stuff.
So break it down. I'm super curious because I really want to use Buildy just selfishly because I get so many app ideas and I know how, we're living in an era now, I feel like, that if there's a tool or some software that you really want, maybe not like a full blown massive CRM with all the all these connections, but let's just call it like OCRing a document or something, where you're taking an image and you want to put text to it. And I know you can put that to ChatGPT, but just apps like that, or a Chrome extension to do whatever. You could build those, a mobile app. So where was I getting at? I guess walk me through how it's going to be easier with your platform as opposed to some of these other ones that are out there.
I think right at the origin point is a difference because many of the other tools, even the name Vibe Coding, their goal is to help you write code, right? So that's right from the start. They're built by programmers and they're built with the intention of writing code. That's how they started. For us, I'm an entrepreneur. I educate entrepreneurs. I've taught hundreds of thousands of people to start and build their businesses. I know how to launch and grow a business.
Right.
And that's the principle which we're founded on is we're going to make tools, or we've made tools and are improving those tools. But the whole purpose of them is to get an entrepreneur to where they have launched their business. And which is a kind of a different way of looking at it. It's not about writing code. It's about building and launching a business. And then there's a bunch of the stuff we're doing on the technology side. So I'm lucky enough to have a data scientist in the family. So it's a bit of a family affair. I have one son who's a data scientist, another who's just brilliant at marketing. So it's the three of us teaming up is pretty awesome. And so he has some really brilliant solutions to some of those technical problems and how, whether it's debugging code before it ever is deployed so that it doesn't ever turn out to be a nasty, scary error message to the end user, to we're using an agentic system where there are like multiple personas, kind of different separate AIs with specific goals that all work on your behalf, like almost like a team.
Yep.
And so we're architecting it to just make all that invisible, and all you get to do is tell them what you want.
Yeah, so that's all happening, but I think the piece I like the most is, well, the fact that you're like working with the family. That's something I want to maybe talk about in a moment too, because that's super unique and really cool. Uh, but like starting with the end in mind, it sounds like that's the biggest thing, and the fact that you want to launch a business ultimately through this whole endeavor of vibe coding or whatever coding it ends up, or maybe not even coding. You're just developing a solution, right? Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
product solution. It's a new business potentially. How do you recommend people start? Like, how do you plan out maybe a new business that can be created using this technology?
Well, I advise doing it based on research. So there's a whole process that I teach of going out online in discussion groups, Reddit, Facebook groups. We can pop into school, look in school groups, and even like old school forums. Going, there's
Yeah,
still a lot of forums out there where people
there
are
are.
having discussions,
Yeah.
and you can use Google to go like mine all those groups, looking for problems that people in your niche or industry have, and then you come up with solutions to those things. That's probably the greatest way to do it.
Hey, I want to pause the episode really fast and shout out another podcast that's on the Hubspot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. The podcast is called This Old Marketing, and it's hosted by Joe Pulizzi and Robert Rose. And these guys have been around for a while, very well known experts in content marketing. So if you want anything around content marketing and the trends and basically the rants and it just brings in a lot of the tactical but really fun conversations. They're not more than an hour long, so you'll be able to jump in there, get some actionable stuff for your content marketing, and then jump right out and then go do some stuff with it. So I highly recommend to go listen to The Old Marketing wherever you get your podcasts and go enjoy. The world's top entrepreneurs are already cloning themselves with AI, and you can too. At AI Build Team, we've already helped industry leaders turn their knowledge into AI powered digital twins that teach, sell, and engage on autopilot. It's not the future, it's literally happening right now, so don't get left behind. Head over to aibuildteam.ai/Joe and you can talk with my AI twin. You'll instantly see how it works and how it can help you scale. So again, head over to aibuildteam.ai/Joe. Cool. What are some other apps that maybe you or other people have used with Buildy that are kind of stand out, maybe use cases?
I mean, there's all kinds, anything from like funny viral stuff, one of my sons built an app just the other day. You upload a baby picture of you and then a baby picture of your wife or girlfriend. And then it actually it recreates like childhood memories, and it puts the two of you together and all these like playing on the beach and the playground. And yeah.
Wow. Interesting. So yeah. So it could be so nuanced that way. And I know because when I was looking at your site and you mentioned it earlier, not only can you do that stuff, but you can build full-blown apps, websites, and sales funnels using this thing. So I'm just thinking, as just the fact that you could build a funnel.
Well, and that's probably the most common, most powerful use of it. In fact, is not building apps. It's I have an idea for a product I want to sell, and I can talk to the app and my site. I
Yep.
get my domain registered, my site up, shopping cart up, and in business selling in like under an hour. The whole process.
Walk me through that because I feel like that's perking some ears up right now because it is for me. It's like, okay. 'Cause I mean, funnels inherently have always been a lot of work. Of course, you have guys like,
Mhm.
ClickFunnels and other folks have done really awesome job at creating templates and flows that you can kind of model. But
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even need to do that. It seems like you have this, you could start from a blank, maybe some idea, maybe a sketch. I don't know how you start off the funnel with Buildy.
I mean, there's a couple ways to do it. I'm a big believer in giving it some marketing and background data on who you're serving, why you're serving them, so it has an understanding of that. And it can even write really good copy. Like I'm shocked. I mean, that's an area that I'm pretty good at, and I'm shocked at the copy that it puts out when it's writing sales pages and stuff. But so I just make sure I arm it with the knowledge of who is it for, Why do they, what problems does it solve? Why are they going to buy it? And then get really specific on it, on anything that you want to make sure is in that sales page. So if there's a particular guarantee, tell it exactly what you want, because it will make stuff up, and it'll make up guarantees and all kinds of things. So be specific. And if you spend a lot of time writing sales copy, or maybe you work with another tool to write sales copy, you can just dump your copy right into the bot. Say, here are all my headlines and body copy that I want to put on my page. And then, give it some general information if you have choices of colors or design choices, and then just set it loose, and then it will build it.
So cool. I want to dive in. I mean, I wish I did this beforehand, like actually built out funnels and all that stuff, but I know what I'll be doing later, after a couple calls, because I'm looking at this and I'm just imagining, I'm like, wow, you can literally, I guess what I would probably start, if I were to think this through, I would probably have it architect a structure for me of all the components. I'm imagining out loud kind of how it works.
Yeah, you can talk with Buildy to try to work through those details, or it's probably better to show up ready to, like, if you know what you're going to sell, what you want in the funnel.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then you just give it those explicit instructions, and then it will build it. Yeah.
Yeah. This is cool. Okay. I mean, this opens up so many possibilities. And like you said, not only can you get up something running within an hour or so, but like it could be, maybe that's the V1 or MVP. It could be the full blown thing. Who knows? But the point is, you now can get live and get some real time feedback way faster than you ever could in the past.
Yeah. And the way we're designing it is that this gets your business launched, but it can still run a very, very large business on our infrastructure. And if you get to the point where you're just absolutely crushing it, you got millions of visitors, you're like, then what we can do is we can migrate your app onto its own dedicated infrastructure. And then even open it up for your coding team to dive in and start getting hands-on. So that's sort of the expansion plan. If you start getting really big, then we can migrate you into your own infrastructure.
Very cool. So you have full control then. Of everything you create. You get the code and all that stuff. You can migrate it out if you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have full access to the source code. And I mean, we're getting a little bit technical. So
yeah.
You can connect it up. There are services that you can connect to Buildy where it will store all of your code, called GitHub. Is for those, someone doesn't know what that is, but you can connect it to your GitHub, and then it puts a copy of all of your code, and then any change you make to the code is also deployed into your own personal GitHub. So you got a copy of everything.
Yeah. And are there any other, I'm thinking of any possible technical hurdles that we could talk through here, just to kind of have the awareness, give folks the awareness of what they might run into. So GitHub's a good one, because you see that used all the time. Yeah. Are there other databases or other integrations that you think would be smart to cover?
What we try to do is we try to take care of everything you could possibly want all in one place. So you don't need any of those outside things, but you can bring outside tools. They're called APIs. And so if there's a particular, let's say you want to use a search tool to search Google, for example, you can go find an outside service that does that and bring the API to Buildy and say, hey, I want to use this to search Google, and then it will do that. And this is, a big reason why right now we're raising a bunch of funds. So we're about to start a round of fundraising, because what I envision for Buildy is that there'll be no need for any integrations. Like we'll have everything under one roof. So if you want a voice app, we take care of the voice. You want to do searching or being able to grab stuff off the web, we just do it for you, so that you could use AI to build fully AI powered apps, text messaging, voice, whatever it could be that you want to build. I want Buildy to just handle everything for you.
Oh man, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah. What's the future look like? And that's a pretty dang awesome, powerful hub.
Yeah. That's our next iteration, where literally, there'll be very rare use cases where you won't have that Buildy won't be able to do what you want right out of the box. So,
where, I'm because you mentioned fundraising, yeah. So this is kind of different than stuff you've because we've been in the same kind of vein, digital marketing, coaching, expert kind of stuff, and it's definitely a whole different world than fundraising, and capital. Because I've worked
Yeah.
with some companies now and that, and I can see how things operate differently.
I've been a bootstrap entrepreneur all these years, only using my own capital and basically building businesses on a micro budget and then scaling them off their profit, basically.
Yeah,
And right now, I need to move fast. And so, in order to move fast and to get enough leverage to grow fast enough, I'm bringing in outside capital. Yeah. So
awesome.
I want to be one of the looking at these others. We just launched, like we literally just opened the doors to version 1 of Buildy
Hmm.
um, just last week.
Oh,
So
was it last week? I didn't realize it was that new.
we just did it. It's been quite something. So we just launched version 1, and it is awesome. But to make it like have everything I want in it, that as we're talking about, it definitely is, and I want to do it fast. So it takes a bit of
Yeah.
capital.
No, absolutely. And I think it shows, like, when you know how to dial in a business, like you said, scaling with the profits of a company. It's what I've always done too. But then when you get some capital, as long as you can control the direction of the company, and you can actually
Yeah.
steer the ship still. I mean, you're gonna be dangerous.
Assuming we accomplish my mission and we cross that chasm I was talking about, where we
Yeah.
really do um, uh, um, make this so that anyone, and that's my goal, like someone who maybe not even a business owner, a kid could show up on Buildy and say, "Hey, I want an app that helps me with my homework," and
Yeah.
they could build it. That's where we're going, and I need to get there fast. And like there's another company in the vibe coding space. I think they're at about $2 million in annual recurring revenue. They just raised, I think, 11 million bucks at $100 million valuation, which is nuts.
And that's where, yeah, it's such, and you're right. It's all about speed right now. Of course,
Mhm.
like we're in this very early stage of AI where most people don't understand it. They're, for whatever reason, or there's maybe not in it every day. That's fine, but it will happen. Yeah, more people are every day are getting more privy to what AI can do, what it is, and I feel like the market, business owners want to be on the leading edge of things. So, which is why I wanted to chat with you about this topic, because it is such a great opportunity. This vibe coding, or whatever label it adopts, I think it will change too. I agree with you on that whole vibe coding label.
Maybe we'll call it AI building. I don't know. I got to come up with some name for it, but
Um,
besides vibe coding. But
yeah, because I mean, you even say on here, on the website, it says the fastest way to build software. So, you know, it's entrepreneurs I know are looking for speed, timeliness of the market. It'd be kind of cool if there was like even a research thing built into it somehow. Just
I
thinking
like that.
just to help out, just like, hey, did you think of doing this? And then it's uh, like a little bubble, a light bulb or something in the corner.
Well, it's
Oh,
funny you say that. My data scientist son,
yeah.
he and I were just talking last night, and he pitched me on idea of having a research agent that will
Mhm.
go search, almost kind of like how deep research works with ChatGPT, but
Yeah.
designed specifically to do research for what you're about to build.
That's it's very in line. I think your son's brilliant. So yeah, you should do that.
Because I was like, I'm not sure. I was like, I don't know. Are people really going to use that? And now hearing it from you, yeah, he'll be happy to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I just think of, because it goes back to my previous question about how do you direct or advise people to start. And like some people just don't know where to start. I think that's the biggest thing. But then when you start to give them ideas and little breadcrumbs of what people might be looking for online in research groups, how to solve problems in their current business, maybe, or
Yeah.
their clients, it just takes a few ideas, and then I think the light bulbs start turning on how AI, or Buildy in this case, can be used and leveraged for like all sorts of things.
Yeah, and one of the things that it's awesome, but a problem at the same time is that Buildy builds everything.
Right.
And that's not an easy marketing message to try to put out there, right? But even like, let's say, I don't know, let's say you're hand making mugs at home, right? You're a crafty housewife who just loves to do ceramics and make stuff. And if you want to sell something on the internet, I mean, I know Shopify has made it easy, but it's still a bit intimidating to get your stuff launched and out there. But now you can just go to Buildy and say, hey, here's a picture of my mug and here's how much I want to charge for it. Launch my website, and it's done.
And then, yeah, and that could be shared however, of course there's marketing and all that, but the fact is now you have a destination, a place of your own that you can own,
Yeah.
your own platform, or even build your mug platform if you wanted to, to be, the new version of Shopify in a way.
There you go. There you go.
There's all sorts of ways.
And I'm shocked. I heard a stat last week that it was high 20 something percent, maybe I'll say 27% of businesses still don't have a website.
I did not know that. That's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. Of small businesses, I guess I should say, but yeah.
So if anyone watching, listening, just go to Buildy, make your website, at least, even if it's a one pager, it'll be done.
So that is my goal. I want to empower millions of entrepreneurs to go from an idea in their mind to something deployed, live, and ready to go in minutes. That's my goal.
What do you think will be achieved? Because people need to, I feel like with AI, you need to have your hands on AI and experiment. So like, what would you tell folks? Like, what's the aha moment, or what's that outside of just, hey, you're going to be like, make a new piece of software or grow a business? But I feel like there's a deeper thing of that shifts in someone when they start to create something of their own with AI.
For me, it's being able to take things that are complicated and difficult and challenging to do otherwise, and it just makes it easier. Like that app I'm building an app for my customers right now. In fact, boy, I don't know if it's not done, so I don't know if I want to show it, but
it's all right.
And it took a manual process, right? This manual process of going to Google, and there's 5 specific search phrases: one to search Facebook groups, one to search Reddit, forums, and discussion groups, and school was one of them too. And you have to do that by hand. So you search each one by hand, you scan the results, you look for unique problems that you might find people discussing that they are frustrated about, and you start to make a list. And for years, I've taught this process manually. And then it's funny that I didn't even think of it. One of the customers said, well, why don't you build an app to do this? It's like, oh, yeah, maybe I should. But it takes something that would have been incredibly expensive to try to go hire a programmer to do this. And you can imagine, like, if you rewind a year or two ago, if you were going to hire a good programmer to go build a tool like this, it's going to take months.
Tons of money.
A lot of money. Yeah. And here in like an afternoon, I've taken that idea and it will be, I think I'm probably one prompt away from launching this tool.
See, there's something you just said there. You're only one prompt away from ... It's like it be anything. You're right. Like actually, and I think like to wrap a bow around at least this concept is like, it's the prompting. You got to get out there and just actually do it, and then you start to see what's possible, what comes to life of your ideas.
Well, and the beauty of this is you don't have to worry about making a mistake, because let's say you sat down and you spent 10 minutes building an app and then it doesn't come out right. You haven't lost anything but 10 minutes of time, and you've learned in that process. So right. I think the important thing is just to start using it, whether you use an app like mine or another. It isn't like the old days, right? I have to spend months and like 10 or 20 grand to then find out my app sucks,
Right. You do a quick rapid launch to maybe a beta group in an afternoon if you really wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. For literally like a couple of dollars, you now could deploy and test and find out, oh, maybe my idea wasn't so good. And then you move on to the next one, and you just keep going until you find that one that hits.
Wild. That's crazy. It is a wild time to be alive right now, especially if you have a little bit of background in business, and in marketing. That helps, of course. Maybe you have an existing audience or platform for distribution. Like, then just start thinking of what's possible. Like, you don't need a massive audience either. It's just start with your network, start solving problems, right? And then put it out there, get feedback, and that could become a business. That could generate revenue, maybe recurring, high ticket, whatever. I
could give you a perfect example. Yeah. So, he actually was a case study for me. We just did a 3-day challenge a week or two ago.
Mhm.
And he was a case study that helped me out during the challenge. And his thing started out because his wife is a nurse, and she was complaining to him about how much of a hassle it was studying. I guess they do a lot of study. They have to do flashcards
Yeah,
and
prep.
you
Yeah.
know in
Yeah.
prepping for trying to pass the one big final test. So he built her an app. It,
Yeah.
the weekly like study sessions. So she just uploads the PDF of what they're studying that week, and it makes a whole quiz for her, a practice quiz for her to just go through and practice. And if she gets an answer wrong, it tells her where in the materials to go look.
Yeah.
Um, but that was just because he was trying to help his wife solve a problem. And then she told some of her friends, and then now all of a sudden he's got users, you know?
An unintended business popped up
Yeah.
out of it, but it's a need. I mean, yeah, I mean, I know actually a few other companies that do test prep. It's a huge business, just depending on the space you're in. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's a perfect example because I think that's the thing, and maybe going out of here, anyone watching, listening, like just go. I mean, maybe go to a chat GPT and just start throwing some ideas and say kind of roughly what you want to do and the tech that you can use to build it and have it maybe generate some ideas for you just to get the wheels spinning. That's usually where I start at least. And yeah, you never know. Start with your own problems. Start with your family's problems. Like you're going to be able to get those rich details more so than if you're just guessing of someone else's problems out there.
Yeah, and I'm always a fan of starting a business in an area that you at least are interested in. If you're, I know some people will say, "Oh, start a business in something you don't care about." I don't believe that's good advice personally, but
Mm-hmm.
um, getting started is the easiest part. It's that journey that happens afterwards of problem solving and getting customers and persisting through all that. And if you don't at least like the business that you have built and the customers that you serve, I don't think you'll succeed.
I agree. And that's that. It sounds like some of your principles that you've carried over from, from years now, it
Yeah.
still applies here. And I agree with that because things are changing. Of course, more people will get privy on what to build and all these things. But yeah, when you solve something for yourself and something that you truly can go deep on, I think that's where now you got some longevity. You kind of can create a moat around what you're building as well in a community. This has been great, Bill. So give me the scoop exactly where they should go to sign up. Go use Buildy, yeah, and follow you
Yeah, so
too.
just go to buildy.ai. So it's just build with a Y, buildy.ai. There'll be a chat box there. You chat with Buildy, tell it what you want, and it will build it.
It's cool. And also, you're on YouTube and stuff. I know you're doing some cool stuff there.
Oh,
So
yeah. I have a weekly show on YouTube, and we're putting out great content just for entrepreneurs. So if you want some advice on starting or growing a business online, especially using AI, then check me out on YouTube.
awesome, Bill. Happy we did this. Over a decade of knowing each other and hanging out. So appreciate you, man, and can't wait to jump into building myself too.
Yeah, let's do this again in not 12 years, though.
Yeah. Well, go raise some capital. Go have some fun. We'll build apps together. We'll talk about it. So
Awesome.
all right, man. Have a good one. Thank you.
You too. See ya.